Hello, everybody. We should be live. I feel like I start every live show the same.
It says live up in the upper left corner. I think we're good.
Yep, it just popped up on my YouTube.
It just takes a while. Okay. Hello, everybody. We are here for another narrator interview, and we have Desiree here and Tori. Tori's assisting in our interview. So we're very excited to chat with Desiree. If you guys did not know, Desiree used to be a YouTuber way back in the day. How long ago was that? I was trying to figure that out.
I would say almost 5 now.
Yeah.
Probably going on 5.
Yeah. A while. But that means you're a huge romance fan turned romance narrator, which is super exciting.
Yes.
So why don't you go ahead? Good. Yes. How did you get started then? So I'm assuming it stemmed from your love of romance.
Yes, absolutely. So along with my love of romance, because I did have that booktube channel for several years, and I loved it so much. And I also was a really big fan of audio. So I'd listen to many audiobooks, and I loved the craft overall. And then I decided to take a chance and write my own book. I wrote 2, and I really wanted them in audio because I personally loved audio, but I was broke because I just written, edited, and self-published 2 books, which costs money. But from doing the booktube channel, I had a good microphone, and I had, a nice tight space in my house that I kind of piecemeal together into a semi-soundproof studio. And the thought behind it was, well, it's my book. Nobody's going to get mad at me if I screw it up. So I really have got nothing to lose. And I had a good friend of mine listen. She's a really big audio fan. She has an audio group on Facebook. So I said, hey, could you help me with this so I kind of know what I'm doing? Give me your honest feedback. And she really loved what I did. So she decided to, she was so sweet, and she helped me get introduced to other authors. And then I met Parker S. Huntington, and I narrated and edited 3 duets for her. And that was how I got started. I just fell in love with the craft, and that was it. That was it for me. I've been doing it ever since.
That's really cool.
Sounds so easy. Like, yeah, I just decided to do it, so I put it together, and here we are.
Yeah, it was the way I like to describe it. It was the dream I never knew I had until it actually began. I felt like all of that led me to where I was really meant to be kind of woo about it. But yeah, I fell in love with it, and I've been doing it ever since.
Did you have any background then with like acting or voice acting, or was it all just brand new that you learned along the way?
It was all brand new. I've never had, this is what made me like really insecure in the beginning was like, oh, well, all of these fantastic narrators are all trained. They're most of them have an acting background in theater or voice acting or just acting in general, and I had nothing. In fact, I have massive stage fright, so I never even tried to do that in school or in college. But it was just like, it sounded so interesting to me that I wanted to give it a shot. And because it was my own book, it didn't really make a difference if I sucked or not, because it would just be, oh, well, guess I'll get somebody else to do this when I have the money for it. But yeah, no formal training when I began.
And look at you now.
Yeah.
I don't know how.
So is editing, you said that you edited those for Parker S. Huntington, which, I mean, she's still around and they still write and stuff like that. Did you just use your editing skills from doing booktube and just kind of like put that with editing audio, or?
No, when I decide that I want to do something, my brain has issues. I want to do it the most difficult way possible right from the get-go, because then everything else feels easier to me. So not only did I edit these books, but they were all in duet, which is the most complex style of audio, where the female reads all the female parts, the male reads all the male parts, regardless of the chapter POV. So those are the books that I was editing. It was 3 or 4 duets. And I had to learn, you know, all of the specs, all of the standards, download all of the right programs and everything like that. And I just hunkered down in my office, and I must have spent 12 hours a day learning, editing, recording. Yeah, I don't do anything halfway. It's all right, I'm diving in head first, and we'll see if I don't drown.
Do you still edit then, or are you just narrating?
I can edit. I don't like to, though. It's some people really have a knack for it, and it's great if that's something that you enjoy. For me, I really like the acting part and the actual production of it. So I don't usually edit them. However, I do like that I have it in my back pocket, you know, that I do know how to in case I decide I want to or somebody asks me to. So it's nice to have it in my back pocket, just that, you know, just in case.
That really hard skill that took hours and hours and hours to
Yeah.
learn. It's just there now. That's funny. And so duet and dual, I don't know if I even have a preference between them, but do you prefer one way of narrating over the other?
They both have their merits. However, I do love duet. It is really thorough, and a lot of authors, it's very expensive because of how involved it is. So it's quite the process. So I don't get to do it often, and maybe that's part of the reason why I really love it, because it is very rare. But there's something about knowing, you know, whether I'm recording it live with my co-narrator or we're going back and forth. I love being able to hear my co-narrator in their dialogue and kind of have that back and forth conversation. It just feels like a full-on production. It's like a play. And I enjoy that about it. So I would say duet is my favorite. However, I do love dual because I love doing different voices. I love doing a male voice. Yeah, both have their merits, but I do love duet.
Is that common to do it? I didn't even think about that. You do it live, so like you both read, like you're both at the same time looking at it, and so you say your line and they be. I thought it was recorded completely separately, and then like
it can be.
Okay.
It can be. So I have a book coming out called Duke that was recorded with Connor Craze for Kaylee Loring, and he also co-wrote it. They co-wrote it together. That was done in duet with me and Connor, completely separate. It also features a couple of other narrators, Mackenzie Cartwright, and so we did that one separate. However, True North by Aria Wyatt, the first book in that series, the second duet just came out, which was recorded separate. The first one was recorded over Zoom with Rupert Channing. So we were Zooming each other while looking at the script in our studios and doing it that way. That was interesting.
Oh my gosh.
That's actually pretty cool because you have your microphone and everything set up recording, and then he has his setting up and recording, but like you're doing it so you can see face to face because it's more like conversation.
Right, and we heard each other in our ears, so it was we made it as authentic as we possibly could, and we would kind of give each other notes like, you know, I think the author is interpreting it this way or wants it to sound this way. Let's try this. It was very collaborative, which I very much enjoyed.
That is really cool. I didn't even know. I mean, because I also do you record from home?
Yes.
So I was wondering, like, none of you really like live. I don't know where you live, but like, I'm assuming none of you live around each other. So I always wondered.
Oh so no, cool. No. I don't even know where most of my co-narrators live. But no, it could be anywhere in the country. It could be anywhere in the world. Really, it comes down to really communicating with each other. If you're not doing it at the same time, really communicating with each other, and great editing to make sure that it sounds seamless and you're not hearing those breakaways. So yeah, it's really, really cool.
Do you have any favorite narrators to work with then?
Plenty. I have plenty of narrators that I've worked with. I have plenty of narrators that I haven't worked with that I want to. I really love working with Jason Clark, Stephen. You had a little blip there. Never became friends that way. So when we work together, it's very comfortable because we kind of have that rapport. Connor Craze, magnificent. Tim Page, magnificent. Teddy Hamilton is always a joy to work with. Honestly, they all bring their own gifts to the table and something uniquely them, that it's a unique experience to each narrator. So it's hard to even pick a favorite, I would say. As weird as kind of cliche as that sounds, it really is true. They all bring something of their own to their work.
And you and Jason Clark did Welcome to the Dark Side, right? By Gianna Darling together.
By Gianna Darling.
So good. Yes, you have gotten to work with so many amazing authors. So
yeah,
Tori and I
very lucky.
I don't know what do you call like your list of books you've narrated?
Oh, I call it my portfolio.
Portfolio. Okay, I don't know.
That's just what I've always called it.
Okay. Yeah. Because I didn't even realize you've worked with Penelope Douglas too, because you did Tristic's Venom.
Yeah. And knowing because we did BookTube together and you got me hooked on Corrupt, and that's what started my love of Penelope Douglas. You can imagine the squeals that came out of me when I got that audition. I was like, oh, yes. I was just out of my mind. That's, to this day, one of my favorite projects that I've done. Because it was Penelope Douglas and because it was my first female romance, and it was just so great, and I really put everything I had into that audio, and so did my co-narrator. So oh my god, getting to work for Penelope Douglas, it's a dream.
That is amazing. Were there any other instances of like dream authors that you just like freaked out getting to do their books?
Oh yeah. A.L. Jackson. I'm actually, I can't say which one yet, but I am scheduled to do another one with her. I did Give Me a Reason. That was with Connor Craze. Lauren Rowe, Swoon. One of my favorite audios to date. I loved doing that one. So that one was fun. Let's see. Of course, Penelope Douglas, Claire Kingsley. Love her. I'm sure there are more that I'm just let me see.
You've done so many. I'm going through Audible right now just like on your name, and you've done so many. Parker S. Huntington, which makes sense. You started with.
Yeah, she was the one who took the chance on the newbie. I'll always be grateful to her because I started my career because she liked my voice and she liked what I did, and she easily could have found somebody else more experienced and trained, and she took a shot on me and started my career. So
I didn't realize
she has a very special place in my heart.
Yeah, I didn't realize you did Her Soul to Take by Harley LaRue too. That's
cool. With Gregory Salinas, who's fabulous. He's so good.
There's so many good ones.
Don't Kiss the Bride by Carrie and Cole. I even listen to the audio. I just forget who. Oh my gosh.
And you did Fine Print.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say you did Fine Print by Lauren Asher too. Which...
Yes, that one was also so good. I think that's more of a recent release. It hasn't been out that long.
She just did the audios for those.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And I can only imagine like knowing you as a huge romance reader, just like how exciting every job is knowing these authors.
Oh gosh, absolutely. Because I have their books on my shelves. A.L. Jackson and Lauren Rowe and Penelope Douglas. And then to be able to, bring their work to life in another medium is like, oh my gosh, somehow I'm contributing and they wanted me. And I remember freaking out when I first read Corrupt and when I first read Birthday Girl and when I first read The Lightning Strike by A.L. Jackson. Yeah, it's surreal. It really is. Every time it's surreal. Same thing with Lauren Rowe. Ball Peen Hammer, I had a video review on that. So to be able to narrate for her all these years later it's a dream. It really is.
Do you still read romance books?
Oh, sure.
Oh, you
I mean,
do?
I don't read it for fun as often because I don't want to burn myself out for work. But occasionally there are, you know, ones that I really want to read or authors that I really love and want to support. I'll go ahead and read, but I generally try to keep it to the booth. But I have.
And do you still listen to audiobooks, like for when you're reading, or is it kind of like?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Generally, I I buy the audios usually for the males, but because I don't want to somehow assimilate the style of the female and kind of unintentionally bring that into me and kind of steal off of them or anything. So usually I like to listen to the male because chances are I will be working with them or I have. And I want to get a better idea if I'm not too familiar with their work of how they sound so I can sort of match their cadence and understand their styles, stuff like that. So usually that's what, if I'm buying romance audio, that's kind of what I do. As far as other audiobooks go, I listen to a lot of fantasy, which I have done fantasy, but it's not my main genre. Just I like to listen to other styles because it's very inspiring and it doesn't kind of mix me up with my style or, like I said, accidentally take on some of the characteristics of another female narrator. So yeah.
That's just like authors though, because I feel like a lot of authors can't read like their genre they're currently writing because they don't want to inadvertently like take from what they're listening to or reading. And so that's so
Right.
fascinating to me though, because narrators are artists in themselves. Like everything you've been talking about is just so thoughtful and you're such a professional. I'm just like, this is so cool. You're like the real deal. So that's really exciting. Yeah. And Monica asked, do you still have your YouTube channel up?
It is still up.
Okay.
It's been very sleepy for several years, but yeah, it is still up. You can still check it out. Unbound Book Reviews. There's tons of Mia Sheridan reviews. There's Penelope Douglas reviews. There's A.L. Jackson reviews. Lauren Rowe reviews, amongst many others. So yeah, still available if you want to go ahead and check it out.
Check out those videos. Yeah.
So I know Jess did an interview with Zachary Weber last night, and he has another pen name, Jacob Morgan. Mm-hmm. Do you have another pen name that you use for like different genres? Oh no, okay.
Nope, just me. I would, and I don't see this ever happening, at least not anytime soon. If I ever did a children's book, I would use a pen name just because I don't want a little kid looking up my name and going, oh, what are all these other titles? No. So that would be the only instance. But for now, no, I just don't see the need. And I would get really confused.
Well, narrator voices are so distinct. Like as soon as I start one, I'm like, oh, well, that's this person. So it's like, then I get confused. I'm like, wait, why is the name different? But they're both like the same genre. Am I like going crazy that like this is this person? So, I mean, but I don't know how common those different narrator names are, unless it's per genre where it's like, you're doing it for a
different a lot like to do it per genre.
Yeah.
Because, they either don't want the content to be mixed because of age groups or because they want to have their own name in a genre without, they want to build that up from scratch and not have it be associated for whatever reason with something else. So I can totally understand the appeal. And then others do it for privacy reasons. So yeah, everybody sort of has their own motivation to having one. And of course, it's very important if you do know a pseudonym and you know who it is. Unless they publicly announce it, we keep it quiet. Just out of respect.
Yeah. I mean, but I think it's pretty well known about Zachary being Jacob
Morgan. Yeah. He's very, there are several who are very open about their pseudonyms and their romance narrator names. There are just a lot who also aren't. And you can find them out. I mean, I have never tried, but I'm sure somebody can in some place. And, if that person doesn't want that out there, we just want to respect their autonomy is all. But yeah.
And the same goes with authors, because there's plenty of authors who have different pen names. And
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah. And so you talked about like wanting to know like how different narrators' voices work. You have to work with them. How else do you prepare then for a book that you're going to narrate? Do you read it beforehand? Do you do any research? Do you get notes from the author?
Yeah, so it's kind of a mix of both. So when I get an inquiry from a production company or an indie author, the first thing I want to know is, are there accents? Because I need to really, those are the ones that require the most prep on my part. So I'll walk around my house talking in whatever accent I need to really hone in on it. So accents first thing, and pronunciation of main character names. Those I get straight off the bat. And then what I usually like to do is I like to take it in separate like chapter sections. So there are plenty of narrators who can read the whole book and prep the whole thing. But for me, I like to kind of go along as if I were the listener or the reader. So I usually read 5 chapters at a time, including both my chapter and the male chapter, my co-narrator's chapter. I don't like to be too far ahead, because I like to kind of have that anticipation along with everybody else. And that's when I kind of scan through and make sure, you know, dialogue is cohesive in my head. Any names or new characters that are in specific chapters, whether they're male or female, what their vocal style is. Those are the key pieces that I get. And some authors are really thorough with their notes for vast character voice banks or personality styles. And then others are pretty go with the flow. They really want you to sort of have carte blanche and just bring your own personality to their character. So really it depends on the book, but communication is really important with the production company, with the co-narrator, sometimes with the author, and just to get clarification of the main points. And usually that's accents and pronunciation first off.
Yeah, that makes sense. That would.
Well, because I've listened to audiobooks where I don't know if it just like they didn't ask, but like the pronunciation of names changed throughout the series. And it's because like the narrator didn't know until like book 3 how to say their name. So they were saying it the way they wanted to. And then they finally like heard from the author, like, by the way, like you should be saying it this way. So
yeah, it happens. It happens. But usually in an extensive series, there's what's called a voice bank in whatever production folder we have. So any previous narrators will have a sample of how to pronounce the character's name as well as their vocal style, so that the next narrator in the next installation can be consistent with that. And that's also where the co-narrators really have to collaborate together and make sure they're on the same page. So yeah, communication, it's not underrated by any means.
Well, that's really cool. There's just so much more that goes into making an audiobook than just like you talking in a microphone. So
yeah, absolutely.
I was going to ask if there's any accents you find very difficult. And then this comment says, are there any accents that are most fun to perform in?
Oh, I love performing in a British accent. I love it. I just did that for Duke by Kaylee Loring and Connor Craze. His character, Connor's character, is American. Mine is British. And I had so much fun with that book. And I don't get to narrate in a British accent very often. But it is, I would say it's my favorite.
Are there any like unique accents you've had to do that you wouldn't expect to have to do?
Yeah, there was a book that I just did a couple weeks ago. I had to do a Ukrainian accent, which I'd never done before. I'd done Russian several times, but I'd never done Ukrainian. So that was a really unique experience because of the research. I just initially thought, okay, so because of the geographical location where it is, it's probably going to be similar to Russian. And in some ways it is, but there are subtle differences and nuances that I wouldn't have thought of had I not done that research. Yeah, that one took me by surprise.
Interesting. Is there like a time frame that you like it takes you to record something? Is it like a week, 5 days, 3 days?
So it generally depends on the word count. So usually most romance novels fall between a 60,000 and an 80,000 word count, which is roughly 6 to 8 hours. Usually every 10,000 words is roughly an hour, give or take. And the most of the time I would say it's a 70, 30, no, well, it's like a 65 to 70, 30, 35 split between the male. Usually the female has more. So out of an 8-hour book, usually I would have 5 hours where my co-narrator would have 3. So usually for those books, the standard ones, usually about a week, 5 days, business week. But with other ones, like with this fantasy series that I just did, which was all single POV, and these were long 150,000 word manuscripts, those took me about 2 weeks. So yeah, it depends. So with every inquiry that I get, there's always a word count listing. So, you know, any accents typically, and then the word count and what the split is between the male and the female narrators, so that I can accommodate however many days to complete that project. Because the last thing you want is to book 5 days in the booth for a specific book and have it be twice as long, and then it just snowballs all over your schedule and it doesn't help anybody. So yeah.
150,000 words and thinking, okay, so that's a long time, a lot of hours just narrating that one book.
Yeah, these ones are probably about 12 hours, I would say, 10 to 12 hours long, these fantasies that I just did.
Do you do anything then to take care of your voice, since you have to depend on it and talk so much?
Oh yeah, a lot of tea, you know, breathe easy tea, throat coat tea, sometimes just hot water with lemon. And then warming up my voice beforehand, usually with humming. I record in the morning, so I want to get rid of the sleepiness. And then I also can't record for 8 hours a day. So usually most people go with finished hour rates. So with finished hours, let's say a chapter is 20 minutes long from start to finish to narrate. Well, with most narrators, myself included, there's a 1-to-1 ratio where 20 minutes to record, or 20-minute chapter, 40 minutes to record. So I usually aim for 2 to 2.5 finished hours a day, which is roughly 4 to 5 hours in the booth. That's a lot on your voice.
Yeah.
Because I'm not just speaking in my voice. 90% of the time, I'm doing male voices, I'm doing accents, I'm doing all these different characters with different vocal styles and characteristics. So if I do any more than that, I'm risking the quality of my voice for the next day. When I'm out of the booth, I try to talk as little as possible for at least a couple of hours. Or I talk very quietly, or I really drink some tea with honey. Yeah, those are generally what I do. If I'm having sinus issues, I use a nasal irrigator, or I sniff some of the Vicks Vapor Rub. I got a stick of it that I just breathe and inhale, you know, for emergency situations, and lots and lots and lots of water.
Yeah.
But I feel like I feel like I would be stressed out if I had to rely on my voice, because what do you do if you're sick? Do you just have to put off narrating, or do you push through? I've
had both instances happen. So usually what I do is, unless I know for sure I can't work because my voice doesn't sound like my voice, usually what I'll do is I'll send a sample of how I sound at that time to the production team and say, hey, I'm kind of sick. Does this sound good to you? You know, how flexible is the schedule? And see, you know, what I can do from there. But there have been many times where my schedule was so tight and so packed that I did not have any free time to be sick. So there have been many times when I'm in the booth and I'm just struggling to get through, but I got to get through it and hope that it sounds, okay. And those are the longest days because I have to go back and forth trying to clear out my sinuses or, get a couple of lozenges, down some tea, really anything to just try and push through. It's rough when you're sick. It really is.
Kimberly asked, do you prefer first person or third person?
I like both. I like both because the writing styles are very different, and so are the narration styles for each one. The cadence that you have in first person, where it's really a stream of consciousness and you're in somebody's head, is going to vary different from a third person omniscient sort of a style. There is a different cadence to it. There's a different intonation. And I like being able to do both. I like the variety, and I like that it gives me the opportunity to try a different style, whether it's, so I've done a couple of romance in third POV. The ones I've done by Ronnie Lauren with the Say Yes series, those were all third POV, but they were in romance. I had to narrate those in a completely different way. I really had to learn a different way of narrating when I did those, because at that point I'd mostly done first person POV. So I like both. It keeps it kind of fun, and it's a little variation, whether it's the same genre or not. It doesn't feel like I'm narrating the same exact thing. So I don't have a preference. It's a long way of saying I don't have a preference.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice to mix it up, though. It sounds like you're never bored when you narrate.
No. I'm very, very fortunate. I get a lot of great variety, whether it's subgenres in romance or romance and fantasy. Yeah, I have a good variety.
Do you use Goodreads?
Oh gosh, I don't think I've used Goodreads in years. I have a profile.
I was wondering if, like, when you narrate a book, do you count that as like you read it? So if, like, would you count that towards your reading goal for the year? That's just how my brain works. Sorry.
I probably could. I don't think I've thought to do that. Maybe I'll have to start doing that. Maybe it'll make me feel even more productive.
Right. You're just reading for your job. Yeah. And you mentioned subgenres, and Elle asked, do you have a subgenre you love to narrate?
Oh, I love paranormal romance or fantasy romance.
Oh.
Love it. That Her Soul to Take and Her Soul for Revenge by Harley LaRue. Chef's kiss. Chef's kiss. They were delicious to narrate. And I loved being able to come up a voice for this really creepy god or these demons or these beasts. That was so fun, but there is still that romance element to it, which I love, but it really gave me the chance to explore and do these humanoid type voices. And then I love fantasy for the same reason. And also I love the world building in fantasy. I love envisioning this world that the author has created, these characters, these beings, but also having that romance element to it because I'm a sap and I love it.
It's got to have romance.
Yeah.
Yeah. And mentioning characters, does any character stick with you after you finish recording it? And
there absolutely have been. I try, and I think most narrators do. It's really hard. You have to try really hard not to personally attach yourself to these characters in these books because you have to move on to the next one. And you don't want that character from the previous project bleeding into the next. So that can be really tricky. However, there have been some that have stuck with me. Amy from Swoon by Lauren Rowe. She really stuck with me. Briar from Damaged by Layla Frost. She stuck with me big time. I would say out of all of the heroines that I've narrated, Briar stuck with me the longest, and she just did not want to let go. So I kind of had to do everything in my power to, push her in the background for a little bit, but she was just still there. There was the tragedy and yet the beauty in her story and in her character really pulled at me and just didn't want to let go. But most of the time I can just kind of move on. But there are those really special instances where it catches me by surprise. Absolutely.
And is there any author you haven't worked with yet but want to? I'm sure there are tons, but
oh yeah, there are so many. I could sit here all night and tell you all the authors that I want to narrate for. The one that comes off the top of my head though, Mia Sheridan.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
I love Mia Sheridan. I think I'm behind on a couple of her books, but I have the whole like Zodiac series and several of her other books. I love her writing and I love the heart and soul that she puts into her books. And I felt that way up until I did The Girl in the Love Song for Emma Scott. I love her and I love her books, and I have for many years. And I was fortunate enough to narrate The Girl in the Love Song as well as Between Hello and Goodbye. Mia Sheridan, I would say, absolutely.
I literally just read Between Hello and Goodbye yesterday, so the list.
Oh, it's so good. Emma Scott, sorry, she's something special with she's so talented. She's just so talented, and she really puts everything she is into what she writes.
You were talking about how characters will stick with you sometimes. Do you ever like catch yourself like currently? I know you say you prep, like you don't like to read more than 5 chapters. Do you ever catch yourself just like overcome with emotion, like joy or like more so crying when you're actually narrating? Like it just comes out and you're not expecting that?
Oh yeah, happened to me 3 days ago. Narrating this, I can't say it because I have a confidentiality thing, but there was this, I pull a lot from my own experiences. So whether or not they're exact to what the character is experiencing, we've all felt pain, for example, in our own way. It doesn't have to exactly be the same way that this other person has felt pain to know what that feels like. So I very much pull from my own experiences, my own interpersonal relationships. And there was one that I did recently. I don't want to spoil anything, but it was a very complicated relationship. And I knew exactly how this heroine felt. And I remember like thinking these same words in my head on my own, in my own personal life. And I had to pause and I had to step out and go for a little like walk around my house because I could feel the emotion and like you could tell, and which is great until you start to get snotty and then you can hear it and that's not good. But yeah, I've laughed, I have cried numerous times, and you know, I really live for those moments because I think it's a testimony to the author and how relatable they're making these characters and their story.
Yeah, I think like, I mean, we're romance readers, but even as just in any book, sometimes you can just like relate in not the exact way, but it'll take you by surprise that you get caught up in your emotions. So, and I think it's funny too with narrators, they can, and I've always said this, they can make a book 10 times better just because of their narration. Like you can be, you know, the author can be amazing and they can write such beautiful words, but then you listen to these people, if it's like narrate and tell this story, and it's just like just blows everything like away. It's just such a great experience, and I think that's the coolest part.
Yeah, the human comes to life.
Yeah,
you know, it's like seeing your favorite book become a movie if it's well adapted. But yeah, it's such a, I love that I get to do that and bring these characters, you know, in a different medium, because the author has the words and they're so powerful because you can come up with the voices in your head. You can come up with the images and the scenery. You can picture everything like a movie in front of you. But there is something different when it's in narration and you're actually listening to these characters in your ear. With people who were specifically cast to play these characters for really good reason. It's such a privilege to be able to do that for me, because I feel like I'm enhancing what the author has originally created, and now it's becoming this collaborative thing between two different artistic mediums.
And you can tell just narrating is such an art. And I don't know if you have any thoughts on like the AI stuff coming up and that possibly like narrating audiobooks that way. But like as an audiobook reader, I'm like, a computer cannot do the same emotional depth that a narrator does.
It can't.
Right.
Boo to AI audio. Narrators, and not just me, but we really do put our heart and soul into these performances and into our work. And we really do due diligence to make sure that the audio is crafted exactly the way the author and the listener wants it to be. And there's just, AI is never going to be able to fully replicate true, authentic human emotion. And this, calls back to those moments that have taken me by surprise where I've cried. So yes, there was a point where I had to stop, but leaning up to that point, all of that emotion is real and comes from personal experience as a human. Yeah. So that just can't be replicated from, artificial intelligence. It's not going to happen. And honestly, it's an insult to the people who have worked their whole lives and really work hard and love what they do. Yeah, not good. Not good.
I mean, just hearing, you're only my second narrator I've interviewed, and I think I have 4 after you, but there's just so much passion in your work and so much emotion and attachment to these characters that goes into it. So yeah, your work is invaluable and we appreciate it as readers. Yes. So, and we definitely notice everything you put into it. Monica asked, have you purchased any books for your own collection after narrating them because you love them so much?
Oh yeah, I bought 2 today. Because I don't usually get to hear the whole thing, come together fully mastered and everything. And I want to kind of, some of them, I love the story so much that I want to hear the whole thing. If I remember my chapter, I'll skip over it. But for the most part, I like to hear everything put together and see like, oh, I get why they paired us. Or I get why we were cast for this specific book. So harking back to Harley the Rue, I bought Her Soul to Take and Her Soul to Revenge on audio today because I loved the books. I hope I get to narrate for her again in the future. She's fabulous. And I love Gregory Salinas. He's an amazing human being and also a very talented narrator. And I really wanted to listen to his chapters as Zane and Leon. And there have been a couple. Swoon by Lauren Rowe. I'll be purchasing Duke when it comes out because it's a duet, and those are extra special to listen to when they're fully mastered and out. So yeah. And sometimes to critique myself, especially if it was an accent that I'm it was my first time doing. I'll likely get the Ukrainian accent, the book with that accent, because I want to see like, okay, does this sound the way it sounded to me when I was working on this, or should I have kind of tweaked this for future books? And now, you're able to observe a little bit better. So it comes in handy for that too.
Yeah. And as a narrator, do you have to wait for authors or like the audiobook people to contact you, or are you allowed to reach out and say like, I love you, can I narrate a book for you?
Oh, I've done that. Yeah, okay. I've absolutely reached out to several authors and just been, I'm such a huge fan of your work. I would love the opportunity, if you feel like I'm the right fit for this or the right fit for a future book, I just would love to narrate for you in the future. And sometimes it works out, and sometimes, you're just not the right person or it's not the right time, and that happens. But the worst, to me, it's like the worst they can do is say, thank you, but no. And then you're like, okay, but at least you took the shot and you asked. So yeah, I do both. I like to, and I also think it's nice to hear for authors. They love to hear from readers how much they loved their books. And I do think it's like, another special thing where a narrator will say, hey, I would love to work on this for you because it was just so good. So even if they don't want to cast me, hey, by the way, I love your book and I would have loved to have worked on it, but I understand. And of course I respect your decision either way. So yeah, I can do both.
Is there a word, like when you're narrating, words that just like trip you up that you cannot say, like no matter what it is, that just doesn't come out right?
Grasped or clasped. There's something in that it does not feel natural. Grasped. He grasped. It's so much effort with the teeth and the tongue and the things. And yeah, many takes with those particular words.
So funny. That's literally exactly what Zachary Weber's answers was to that question. He's
really?
Like, yep. Any narrator, and it will be clasped and grasped. Like, and same, like, yeah, that is a very awkward word to say.
Very.
Yeah.
It's almost easier in a British accent because you don't have that long A. It's different. It's ah instead of ah. Grasped. It's a lot easier than grasped because like the tongue positioning is different and it comes from a different location, like in your jaw. Whereas grasped is very front, like forward up in here, and grasped is like very in the back of the jaw. So it's a little bit easier with a British accent.
Interesting.
But yeah, that word, we're not friends.
That's so funny.
And when you narrate, I know like you can get like corrections back. Have you ever like said anything you didn't mean to say and you're like, how did I say that and not even okay?
Oh yeah, I don't know if I can think of any off the top of my head, but yeah, there are some I listened back because you get a voice bank and you get to hear, you know, what you said versus what was supposed to be said. And there are some where I'm like, do I know English? Why? But sometimes it happens and you kind of just giggle it off and go, well, I'm human for sure.
So okay. Oh, I just was gonna say I have a technical question. What program do you use to record? Is there like
honestly, I use Audacity.
Okay.
Sometimes Adobe Audition, but I like the simplicity of Audacity. So I have a really good mic and I have really good sound equipment. But there's something about the simplicity of Audacity that I've just liked from the very beginning. You know, I don't know why. I learned it first. It's an easy layout. It's very user friendly. I'm not a technology mogul. Okay. No, we don't get along. It's an oil and water situation. So the simpler things are for me on the technological side, the happier I am and the easier it is for me. And Audacity has been great.
That's interesting. Yeah, for my YouTube videos, I record my audio separate from like my camera. So like my camera will do video and then I use Logic to record my audio and then I put it together in Final Cut. So I like to see the technical side of it and see what kind of you use and what you prefer.
Yeah, a lot of people use, you know, I know a lot of people who use Adobe Audition. I know a lot of people who use Reaper, whichever one that comes with a Mac because I'm a PC girl. I can't think of it. GarageBand,
yeah.
Maybe that's it. I could be wrong. But there's a plethora of them out there and I've tried numerous ones. And every time I just go back to Audacity just because it's so simple and I like that.
Interesting.
Tori's fancy with her audio and video. I don't know.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
And that's why her videos are such good quality.
Oh,
so this person said they really liked your 2 books and wish you would write more. Are you planning on writing more? Is that a goal of yours?
Not at the moment. Not at the moment. I'm very glad that I tried it. I'm very glad that I took that chance. Otherwise, I don't think I would have ended up in audio. What reason would I have at that point? But it was a great experience. However, you know, publishing is not for me. You have to have very thick skin to publish your books. And it gave me that much more respect for all of the authors, whether you're traditionally published or you're self-published. It takes so much to put your words out there. And for me, it turned out, that's something that I hold very close to my heart. And to kind of put it out there and deal with the criticism that, of course, is going to come along, you kind of either can deal with it or you can't. I can't. So it was one of those things where it was like, I'm very glad I had this experience. I'm very glad that I did it. I'm not once, but twice. But it was a very intuitive feeling of, this isn't for me. But it led me to narration. And for that, I couldn't be any more grateful to it. I don't know if it would have happened, but as of right now, I still write, but I write for me. Who knows what'll happen in the future, though?
Oh, yeah. You could be writing more. You could be narrating your own audiobook.
Who knows?
Have you ever gotten criticism, though, of your narrating then? Or is that like, you can't, I don't know where you would like find that unless they like tag you and say to your face what their criticism is. But...
Oh, well, early on in my career, I would look at reviews and, that's bad. That's bad. Luckily, for every one negative review, there's going to be, thankfully, more positive reviews, which has been my experience, and I'm so grateful for that. But oh yeah, I've seen several ranging from like really angry, I've ruined the book for the listener, to just, very healthy, constructive criticism. And everybody's entitled to their opinion. I'm not going to be the perfect fit for everybody. But I have to be confident in that the author and the production company chose me to voice this character for a reason. And I have to remain confident in that, not just for myself, but for the author and the production company, because it's not just me with my name on it. There's a lot that has gone on for this production. But yeah, I had to stop looking at reviews because of that. It was just like, no, I'm good. Why?
Yeah.
So I just don't. Lesson learned.
I think that's a good idea. I don't know if I could ever seek out criticism of myself. No, thank you.
No.
I don't have that thick of skin. Monica's asked, do you get a physical manuscript or digital copy to read from to narrate?
Digital. Always digital. Physical copies, there would be a lot of noise. Crinkling pages, just turning the page makes a noise because you're in a very closed environment. Audio narration is such an intimate medium of audio to record in. There's no background noise. There's no music. There's no choir in the background. It's you and the listener's ear. That's it. So you have to be very cognizant of, like, my stomach will growl and I'll hear it in the audio and I'll have to go back and re-record it, or I'll bump my elbow into something. Very sensitive mics, very sensitive voice environment, but it has to be that way for audio narration. So a physical manuscript would just not work at all. So it's always digital.
I think I noticed with some of like older audiobooks from maybe like 2015, 2016, if you listen to them, you can hear that like static, like it wasn't the best mic, or like the environment you could hear.
Yeah. Usually things. That's caused from USB mics, which I had for several years. My good old Blue Yeti, I still love it. It works. But when I started to progress in my career, that's when I upgraded mics to one that was much more crisp and clean. But yeah, it's amazing how it's advanced. Yeah. How audio has really blown up so much that there's a lot of effort that's been put in to the production of audiobooks.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know like what trends you've seen, but even just over the past, like I want to say like 3 years, I feel like the audio industry is just blowing up and booming, and all these authors are prioritizing their audiobooks. It makes me excited when they're doing simultaneous releases, so they're not waiting months for the audio to come out after the new release comes out. So yeah.
Yeah. It's it's the medium that we talked about, really getting to experience the book in a different way.
Mhm.
And which I think is the most amazing part of it, but it's also, we live busy lives, and we're a very on the go people, and you don't always, you can't sit at a stoplight and read your book because that's dangerous, but you can have it playing through your Bluetooth in the car. So it's very convenient in that way. I think it's the same way like podcasts have really blown up, I think, in the past few years, because you can multitask while doing them and still get the experience. So I do attribute that to one of the reasons why audiobooks and podcasts have just kind of blown up. We're sort of reviving the radio era.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we have it all on our phone, so it's not like I have to carry around a CD player or like a book on tape kind of thing. It's just
Right.
click a button and I have my audio and I can go. So
Exactly. Downloaded within a few minutes, and you could plug it into any speaker you want or your headphones. And it's just so convenient. It is so convenient.
And when you were listening to audiobooks yourself, like before you narrated, did you listen at a certain speed? Were you like, you can only listen at normal speed? Did you ever speed up your audiobooks when you listened to them?
I was always a normal speed girl.
Okay.
Yeah, it would bug me too much. It would almost make me anxious if I put it up. Like I could do 1.5. That wouldn't be too bad for me. But if I got up to 2 or higher, I would just be like, oh no. And I'd go back. But usually 99.9% of the time, like even going to 1.5 just wasn't worth it. I always stuck to normal speed.
Mm-hmm. And have you heard of graphic audio? I'm assuming you have, being in the audio
I
industry.
don't think
Like,
so, actually.
well, so they did the Sarah J. Maas books where it's like a full cast and there's like full sound and like sound effects.
Oh, certainly. Yeah. That would be, I would love to do one of these days. I would absolutely love it, especially for the lit RPG genre, which is like video games in books. And that's sort of how they're narrated as well. I would love to do that one of these days. The closest experience I had to that was Swoon by Lauren Rowe, and that was dual, but she included the music that she wrote in the actual audiobook, and I just thought that was so fun. Also, Lauren Blakely does these really beautiful full casts for her audiobooks. Yeah, I would love to be able to do that one of these days. That's it. That's for sure on my manifestation list.
I just can't imagine all the work and time that goes into something like that, because that's just a full-on production in itself. But we're already at an hour, and that went by very quickly. To wrap it up, are there any books of yours that you think, like, for sure, if someone was to try you out, listen to this audiobook?
I would say Don't Kiss the Bride by Carrie and Cole, Welcome to the Dark Side by Gianna Darling, and Swoon by Lauren Rowe. I would say, yeah, those ones, the stories are fantastic. My co-narrators are amazing. And these are just ones that have stuck with me for one reason or another. And I really enjoy them. And if I enjoy them, I think other people will enjoy them too, hopefully.
I've listened to 2 of those 3, and I can agree vouch that those are amazing. So, yes. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun, and being able to see you, like, this is crazy because we did that collaboration together back when I was a YouTuber, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is just so great. And we got to meet last year. Yeah, this has been so much fun. It's been wonderful meeting you, Tori. I've definitely watched some of your booktube reviews, like back in the, oh yeah, I have. Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. This has just been a pleasure.
All right. So exciting. I was so glad I was able to sit on this one, because this is the one I chose. Out of all of them, I was like, I want to do this one.
Thank you.
It's just so different because we know how much you appreciate the genre and started as a reader. So I just feel like we connect. We understand.
It's in the blood. I love it.
Yes.
All right. I am a romantic through and through.
Thank you, everybody, for joining, and
Thank you so much.
Have a good night. Bye.
Bye.